Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because you know God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, the place where we're going to show you how to go from obscurity, the best kept secret in your neighborhood, in your city, to actually being known by people and being on the front of their minds, especially at a time. I'm recording this at Christmas, literally 3 days before Christmas, but this is timeless for everything. I know the title of the show is Marketing Lessons from 2022, but really what we're looking at is a full-on, what do you need to do at the end of the year? Because I think so many of us get trapped, and this is in church leadership and pastorship, but also anything else in life. We get trapped in knowing that something didn't work, and we look ahead and just want to get it over with. Just go on to the next season of life. Go on to the next phase of life. And let me tell you, as a salesperson, I love that. I love that because you want to leave it behind and you want to try something new, something prolific, something that you've never tried before. And I love it. It's an easy sale. But I never want to approach you as a salesperson. I want to approach you as a consultant and say, before you make decisions on what to do next, you need to make sure it's the right decision by looking back at what's been, what's happened, what has come so far, and say, is this next year and what I'm looking at doing next, is it going to be a proper solution to what failed last year, what didn't work, or what I like to do is look at what did work, and is what we're doing next going to scale that, enhance it, double it down, or is it going to leave what worked in the past to try something else new? I think it's important. A lot of pastors, especially those with a military background or even maybe more the higher level business background, know what an after action report is. That is when you meet after an event, after a happening, whatever, and you look at what worked, what didn't work, what should have worked but didn't, and why. We're going to look at this more from an annual perspective because, look, everyone's trying to sell you on 2023 right now at the time of this recording, or everyone's trying to sell you on the next best thing without listening and figuring out and diving deep into, well, what have you tried before? If someone ever tries to sell you something without figuring out what you've tried before and why didn't it work and how long you've been trying to figure this out, don't buy from that person. They're only interested in your money. That's why we do such a long process before we even get to the sales portion at Nava Church Marketing, because we want to make sure that our roadmap fits with what you've tried. We're not going to duplicate anything you've tried, and we're going to enhance and duplicate what you've already done that works. So today I'm going to walk you through how to analyze what you did in 2022 or what you've done before. I'm going to speak in terms of like, it's the end of the year right now at the time of this recording, but this is going to be a mainstay. If you listen to this in July, don't think that this is just like we're too far away from 2022. We're looking at what you've done before, analyzing it to help you make decisions on what you need to invest your very valuable budget in and what you need to leave behind or what you need to double down on. I'm going to give you kind of the roadmap. But first, I want to share a story from a book that I just finished. Every day at 8:30, I clock out. I answer client calls and prospect calls all day, but after 8:30 Central Time, I am off the clock. So usually that's about an hour before my bedtime. I get my hot chocolate or I get my diet root beer, put it in my little thermos thing so it stays cold for the hour, and I go to a recliner in my bedroom and I open up a fiction book, whether that's a comic book or just a piece of literature. I don't do any work. I just this is my let's calm down, let's shut things down so I can go to sleep. I do that every night as possible. So of course things come up, things happen. I don't get to do chores till 8:30. Don't get to have it every night. But that is a ritual that I've kind of developed, and it's helped me sleep better. It's helped me work through the day better. It's helped me relax a little bit more. It's almost like a mini Sabbath because I don't often get a whole day of Sabbath rest, but I take these mini Sabbaths at the end of the day. Really helps me. So got my pajamas on, freshly showered, go to sit down in my recliner, open up my book, and I'm reading a story. And I got the book right here. I just finished it literally 2 nights ago. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, and a lot of folks read this in high school. My wife did. I did not. Even if it was assigned in high school, I was a student that did not read it in high school. In fact, I would, this is probably not a good story to tell, but I would actually go to Spark Notes online, and this was at the very beginning of Spark Notes, so I'm sure they have something like this now, but I had to copy the entire Spark Notes of chapters, and I would shrink it down in Microsoft Word and print it out on little Post-it size printer paper. Well, the paper wasn't Post-it size, but I would shrink it down so when it printed, it would kind of print everything in the chapter summary as a Post-it size. And then I would cut the paper and I would hide it in my book. So whenever the teacher asked me a question, I'd be like, oh yeah, let me look at the book here. And I would just be like flipping over to my Spark Notes and print it inside my book. Terrible student. I was a terrible student. Maybe that's why I went in business now. So I'm finally reading this book. This book was recommended by a mentor years ago. This has been sitting on my shelf. I finally opened it up and read it. Fantastic book. And unfortunately, it put me right back into work mode around 9 o'clock at night when I'm not supposed to be in work mode because of what happened to the character, Howard Rourke. And I have to share this story because it really encouraged me to share this with you. And I think this story is going to resonate with you as well as it resonated in me. Howard Rourke is an architect, and he does, through mean circumstances, he put himself on an assignment to build some public housing, some projects, right? Back in the 30s when we didn't really have public housing, this was supposed to be the public housing, the first step to creating basically the template to replicate across the country. It was a really big deal, and no one had been able to do it. But he, being the tremendous Mary Sue of an architect that he is, decides to go ahead and he's going to do it. And he nails it. He creates the perfect architectural structure. The goal was to get it to where they can rent the rooms for $15 a month, which was back then in 1930s times. He got it down to where they could build this and rent the rooms out for $10 a month. I mean, he excelled. He did everything he was supposed to. Nailed the goal. Okay. Not only that, superseded it. Which already is like don't shoot for $15 an hour. Don't shoot for whatever your goal is. Shoot for better than that. He goes out on a trip for a few months, and another architect is in charge of the project. And there's a lot more you can go into the deal about why he does that, but that's besides the point. The point is he comes back from his 3-month excursion. He goes to visit the architectural site, and he sees additions to his perfect architectural plan. Again, he had gotten it down to where like all the housing units were perfectly, I mean he didn't cut corners, but he drafted a building that could be rented for so low because it has such minimal, such streamlined features that match the goal. And when he came back, there were new additions, there were new ornamentations, there were new building structures. Certain ceilings were vaulted, which of course adds to the price because you've got to add different architectural elements so the vaulted ceilings don't cause any issues. And the project was just not what he laid out. So he goes to the architect that was in charge, Peter Keating, and says, "What happened, man?" And Peter's like, "I don't know what happened. You weren't here for a few months." And they assigned 2 associate architects to the project. They were just supposed to be there for name recognition, but they ended up throwing out ideas saying, why can't I have an idea here? And then someone else came in from the government that said, hey, we want this because it's important to our people, or we think it's important to our people. So they added a gymnasium, which then adds to the cost, which then has to redesign everything. And then people said, well, why should it look so drab? Let's add some ornamentation. All of that driving the cost up and ruining the perfect plan that Howard Rourke had architected, right? And so through no fault of anyone's, because there's so many people on the project besides Howard Rourke, and because he had left, the perfect plan, the perfect execution went out the door. And what happened was a complete monstrosity was built that did not match the original plans, that did not complete and match the original goal, and was totally just flying in the face for good reasons fly in the face of the actual project itself. Now, there's a whole lot of more literary things that you can read into the story, but what struck me late at night, when I say late, 9 o'clock, right? In my PJs with my hot chocolate, is like, holy cow, this is what happens to churches every day. Nay, do I say this is what happens that causes churches to close down. They have the perfect project. They have the perfect mission. We are going to go out and we're going to teach our people to disciple where they live, work, and play. We're going to make disciples who make disciples. We are going to change our town into a God-fearing town. It's a great goal, but people come in and they start changing things. They start saying, well, we had this at another church and it really worked well. Why don't we do it here, right? Well-meaning, well-intentioned, possibly even generated some results, but ever so slightly shifted. People are put into roles that maybe they didn't belong to, or maybe they shouldn't have been in. And they make decisions or make suggestions to the decision makers that completely alter the plan, the strategy, and the trajectory until eventually your church is a hodgepodge of different ideals, of different ministries, of different purposes, again, by well-meaning people. And the church is no longer doing its mission to make disciples. It is now there to be a place to feel comfortable, a place to be liked, a place to rub elbows. And Jesus takes second stage to the people and what they like. And this is something that, again, I didn't want to feel that way. And I was like, man, this is churches to a T, right? You set out to build something, you have a perfect plan, but then people come in, you start making compromises, you start doing things that weren't part of the original plan until you're left with something that's like you're standing in front of a firing squad. Like, please just get this over with. In fact, the book even says Howard, as he looked at the building as it was being built, it was so mismatched to his plans. He stood like he was in front of a firing squad. I think that's often how we feel in ministry when we look at things, we look at our church and say, this isn't what we're supposed to be doing. Why are we not only singing the songs or doing service like this, but why are my people not going out and making disciples? Why are my people ill-equipped? Why are they asking political questions rather than discipleship questions? Why are they so rallied around a political figurehead and not Jesus? Why are they so concerned with what their kids are learning in school and not what they're teaching their kids at home? Right? We have these great ideals that we set out when we plant a church or when we come into a church, but over time, even in as little as a year, things don't come out the way they do. And I see this often as a creator. We build fantastic, beautiful websites, and then we hand them off to the communications director or a volunteer or the youth pastor, and they start making changes to where a prospect is like, hey, I looked at this site you sent me, and it doesn't look like anything like the pictures that you sent me. They totally changed it. Misspelled words, graphics that don't look good. And it's like, wow, you really got to be careful with who you give these creative elements to, because they can really mess them up or change them in a way that no longer reflects the original intention. We even had a website that was so focused on like, you want to be known in the city. You want people to take action. What we are going to do is anyone that comes to the website, we are going to have them develop a dialogue and initiate a relationship with you. A year later, they had totally changed the website, to which the design no longer worked, to, hey, we're a fun church, look at us and look at all the fun things we do. And there was no relationship, there was no testimony, there was no discipleship built into it. It was all attractional. And the design didn't fit that because the design was built to enhance a relational message. And so the website didn't work for them. And so when we did our annual review, we had to tell them, look, whoever's running this, they're not matched up with what the mission is, because the mission is to make disciples, but the website says, let's make good programs. So there were some discussions that had to be had here. So all that to say, I kind of jumped ahead to point 3 of today. But all that said, we have to look at what we've done in order to make plans and know it's going to work in the future. And again, the first question that we have to ask is, looking at the end of this year, what worked this year? Okay, if you are looking at a new website, look at your current website. What did work? Maybe it was just that it was live. Hey, that's something to celebrate. Maybe it was that it had good pictures of our church. If people are coming in saying, yeah, I saw the website and I felt like this is a place I could belong. That's not a good enough answer. Okay, you need to find out what about the website. Because there was something about that. No one makes the decision because you have a website. They make a decision because something on that website persuaded them to make that decision. Okay. God is calling them to a church. Your website might be the thing that persuades them to go to your church because you're equipped to serve them, because you're preaching a true and honest, faithful message, because you have people that have walked in their steps and they feel like they can belong here. There is something on that website that got people to come in. You need to figure out what that is and then double down on that. When it comes to marketing, there's no such thing as too much of a good thing. Okay. Only too much of a shotgun approach, right? Okay. So you need to figure out what about, if someone says something worked really well, what about it worked really well? Okay. For example, we did a block party ad for a church. It was a really small ad. We just wanted the neighborhood around them. It was a large neighborhood, but it was just the neighborhood around them. And they got about 150 people coming to the event. 70 something of them, I can't remember the exact number, but about half of them were people that were not affiliated or connected with the church at all. Which, I mean, it's one thing to bring 75 people to your church. It's another thing to bring 75 people that you know are within a mile of your church that you can walk to and serve and fellowship with. I think that's so cool. So we had to ask ourselves what worked. Not only is it the Facebook ad that worked, but also having registration at the front where people could register and get a gift bag. A, that gave us their contact information. B, that verified that they saw the Facebook ad because we could compare their registration information to Facebook to see who came because of that ad. Something that, is a little bit more advanced, but we can do. And C, it was that it was so focused on the neighborhood. So it wasn't a Facebook ad that worked. It wasn't registration that worked with a gift bag. It was the strategy of, we are doing a Facebook ad to this specific people with this specific message in an effort to get this specific outcome. Our goal was 25 people from the neighborhood. We 3 times that because we were really shooting for 10 times that. And I think that's cool. Okay. So what we're going to do for the next year is we're going to double down on that. We're going to keep the same neighborhood because that's all that church is equipped to serve, is those few thousand people. Okay. That live in that neighborhood demographically. But we're going to say, okay, so obviously the Facebook ads work for these people. The messaging worked for these people because they wanted a family-friendly event that are becoming harder and harder to find these days. And so obviously it worked. The location works. So instead of doing one event, we're going to double down. We're going to do 2 events. We're going to do an Easter event and we're going to do a Christmas event. Maybe we'll do a summer event. But we know that these people are in tuned with who our church is. The Facebook ads are working. Okay. So we're going to double down and we're going to put more money in the budget for Facebook ads, not to try something new. Because Facebook ads worked, maybe TikTok ads will work. No, dude, Facebook ads worked. We're going to do them again. We're going to do them harder, okay? What worked this year? Media plays on the website are up. We got one church that's getting like 500 media plays a month, right? Great. So we're going to designate a volunteer to just do more media plays on our website so we can have more content for people to binge, to spend more time on our site rather than Netflix, to spend more time thinking about Jesus rather than a Tiger King. Can I use that reference? Is it too old? People want stuff. People are watching our stuff. We want to put more stuff out there. This is what's working. So look at what's worked this year. From a marketing perspective, that's what we look at. You can obviously look at your discipleship path. Hey, new membership orientation's working. This curriculum worked. This curriculum didn't. We'll talk about what didn't work before. But figure out what's working and figure out why it worked. You got to ask questions. You got to ask quality questions. A lot of pastors are afraid to ask questions because they don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. They don't want to come off too aggressive or too authoritative. I totally understand that. Get past it and ask quality questions. We came because the website made us feel good. Why? Well, because we saw people that look like us. That's important to you? Absolutely. We've been to churches that lied to us, had a bunch of diverse people on the website. We went to a church. It was a bunch of old white folks. Okay. That's a problem because they're miscommunicating it. But that worked for you because obviously you have pictures of your people that are resonating. So look at how do we put more pictures? Maybe we look at some videos to showcase the kind of people that come into our church, the testimonies that, hey, it doesn't matter where you're from. Okay, something there is communicating and resonating with people, so let's double down on it. So number one, look at what worked well this year and how you can scale it, double down on it, put more resources into it to continue to work. And you keep doing that until it doesn't work. If you look at next year and say, you know what, the diversity thing didn't really work for us because, for whatever reason. That's a bad example. Let's actually look at a real example with our website, which is contact forms. We saw that a lot of people were utilizing contact forms on our client websites. And so we said, you know what? We need a contact form on every page. We would get contact form replies from every page, from the leadership page. We had a contact form. We want to speak to one of our leaders? We'd get contact requests. Hey, I want to talk to the youth pastor because my kid's going through a phase and I don't know how to deal with it, right? On the, what's another one that just came in this week? The ministries page. Want to serve in a ministry. Someone said, hey, I want to open up a new ministry in the church because I didn't see this on the ministry page. Huge, right? Plan a visit page, obvious contact form. People would say, my grandmother's in a wheelchair. Can she access your building? Obviously with my assistance, right? That was a big thing. It's gone down. And so what we're looking at now is web conversations, web chat, a couple different opportunities there. Birdseed's my favorite. We actually have an agency license with them. We help build and all that stuff because we believe in it. It's working. So now, while the contact forms are still available, we're really focusing on web chat because why? It worked so well this year. We're going to double down and every website's going to have web chat next year. Okay. We're looking at what worked and we're going to double down on it. Contact forms worked. We doubled down on it for a few years. They worked really well. Now we're backing off to double down on something else that's working. Okay. So look at what worked this year from a marketing perspective. And if you feel like nothing worked, then you got to try something new. I understand that. But that brings me to point number 2, which is what didn't work and why. Again, you can't just say, oh, well, this didn't work. You have to know why and get real feedback. Okay. So one dangerous phrase to avoid here, Pastor, if you hear this phrase, start ringing some fire bells in your head. This is a dangerous phrase. This can still be well-meaning, but it is still manipulative, is when you hear or say the words, I felt or I feel. Okay. I'm not saying people's feelings are invaluable, but when it comes to measuring quantitative and qualitative data, I feel and I felt is not a reflection of what's actually working. I used to be that kind of person. In fact, in an exit interview, for my very first church that I worked at for 10 years, my very first exit interview, they did a 360 interview with all the staff, and then I met with our church administrator, and we went through some of the things. Here's what you did well as a church communications director. Here's what we think you can improve on as you leave and go towards your next endeavors. And I took that to heart. One of the things was Justin brings a lot of opinions that isn't backed up with a lot of fact. Meaning I was saying things like, this isn't really working, and I didn't really have a lot of fact behind it. I didn't talk to anyone. I just kind of looked at results and assumed it was what I felt at the time. And so I said, you know what? That's a very dangerous thing. A lot of people will say, hey, I feel like YouTube's not really working for us. And I look at the data and I say, actually, it kind of is. You've got a longer than average watch time. So maybe what you feel is that it's too much work. Maybe you feel what you're doing to get that watch time isn't working. But to say that it's not working is just a feeling that can't be backed up with facts. And a lot of people, well-meaning, will say, I feel like people aren't really reading our bulletin. And it may be true, but what's really true is their circle is not reading the bulletin, meaning them and their friends or the people they sit around is not reading the bulletin. When you're looking around and saying, well, if you feel like you're not reading the bulletin, why are we printing 200 and 180 are leaving our building? And we had 220 attendees or whatever the number is, right? So I feel and I felt don't work here. You need to get actual feedback. Okay. What makes you feel that way? Have you noticed anyone else feeling that way? Do you have you done any measurements of this to see if this feeling is actual real, right? Because we know that you can have anxiety and feel like the world's against you, but when you actually measure it, it's not true. And you got to kind of look at it from an analytical and logical perspective. My therapist did that with me when I was dealing with anxiety, right? So I feel and I felt doesn't work here. The other thing is you have to look at, did this not work because it just doesn't gel with our church? Or did we not execute it right? A lot of people will say Facebook ads didn't work for us. Not because Facebook ads don't work, because you don't know how to work them. and you don't know how to execute them. Like when I mentioned earlier, if you run Facebook ads to an offline event, meaning like an in-person event, and you have registration, you can take those registration numbers and feed them back to Facebook to see how many of those people, anonymously, they don't give you the names, but how many of those people saw your ad and then came to your event. So maybe Facebook ads didn't work, but you didn't take the right measurements to see if they did work. Or you're in a Facebook ad spending $500, but you didn't put the right targeting in there, so it showed to people all over the country rather than people within 10 minutes of your church. So, and that does take an objective outside view, which is one of the reasons why we do the consultations the way we do with churches before we even work with you or even propose to you. We take a look at what you've done to see, is this not working or did you just not execute it right? Because that's a huge deal and it's hard to do on your own, which is why we do these consultations to kind of shine a light to that blind spot. So why didn't it work? Was it not executed right? Does it not gel with our church? A lot of folks will buy software, will buy graphics, will buy packages, and it just doesn't gel with your church. Right? I had a church tell me right now media doesn't work. Why didn't it work? No one's watching it at home. Oh, okay. Did you ask if they tried? Well, no, it just says no one's watching it on the back end. Okay, well, ask your church. Why aren't they watching it at home? You know what the answer was? It was a low-income church. And they wanted to have resources for their church to not have to commute to church. They wanted resources for their congregation to not have to commute and spend gas money to get to church when they're already working 2 jobs or they're working 12-hour shifts. They wanted, and it's well-meaning, well-intentioned. It absolutely could work. Okay. The problem, their people don't have Apple TVs and Rokus at home. Okay. They're still dealing with rabbit ears or basic cable or stolen cable. Okay. And so they could watch it on their phone, but you can't really gather and watch something on their phone. So they're just not going to watch it. The answer was not right now media doesn't work. It's that our people didn't have the right equippings or the right equipment to watch it at home comfortably in a way that makes sense for them. So it's not that it didn't work. It's that it didn't work for this church. It didn't gel with their community. So the answer for that was either buy Rokus for everyone, which is cheap. It's like $30 a house. I mean, we do that at our church if you need one to watch our Bible talks and to host our church groups. Or maybe right now media isn't the way to do it. Okay. So, it could be that it doesn't work for your church. I've had other someone just rang my doorbell here. Weird. I've had other people tell me, man, I totally lost my train of thought. Thanks, UPS driver. I've had other people tell me, hey, I bought this sermon package from someone else. It comes with the outline. It comes with the graphics. It comes with the workbook. And it just didn't resonate with our people. You executed it perfectly. You preached, you took the sermon notes, the outline, you kind of made it your own and you preached it to your people. You gave workbooks and curriculum to your small groups. There was a little children's thing that came alongside it, but it just didn't gel well. The execution was fine, but the content was not for your church. And I have no problem with pre-made sermons or whatever, as long as you don't steal other sermons or say you wrote it yourself, don't admit that you wanted the help. There's nothing wrong with that. But that content, for whatever reason, didn't gel well with the church. That's a couple of reasons why things may not work for your church. But get the real feedback. I feel does not really work well here. And also you need to look at, was it us that was the problem or was it the actual thing that was the problem? Not only that, there could be a third problem with that, and it could be that you didn't use the right people. So now that you know what worked, you can double down, and you should also know why it worked, right? Facebook ad really worked because Justin did them. So we need to double down and give Justin more ad spend to work with so he can reach more people. Or it didn't work because we gave Justin, we didn't give him enough time, right, to get it done well. And so that didn't work, and so that was an execution problem. So we're going to fix that for next year. But not only that, who was involved that wasn't the right fit. Now, because we have such a long discovery process before we even get to the sales portion of like, are you going to work with us or not? We figure out if you're the right fit. Other people won't. They just say, hey, you want a website? We'll give you a website, without realizing what fits for your church. And maybe there was a volunteer that wasn't the right fit to execute or do some kind of marketing thing. Okay. So maybe your graphic designer is not designing graphics that communicates to your people. Oh, what happened to my camera here? Let me quit that. There we go. Whoa. Okay, cool. Weird. My camera is just flipping out here. And it's switching. Okay. Well, if you're listening to this, it doesn't matter. I think my camera just disconnected and it switched to my FaceTime camera. That is so weird. Okay, so let me quit this. Give me a second, guys. Huh. Here. So weird. Now my mic is muted? What? Okay. Well, you're just going to have to deal with, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you're just going to have to deal with a terrible camera quality. I don't know why my camera's turned off. That's great. I guess I'm about to say something that's going to truly change someone's church and help them make more disciples, because I got the doorbell ringing to distract me. I got my camera turning off to distract me. You know what? Let's go. So what I'm saying is, maybe you didn't have someone that was the right fit. Whoever's doing your website, if you're spending a lot of money on your website and it's not working, it might not be the website platform. It might be the person that's running it. Are they too late making changes? Are they writing stuff on the website that doesn't match your actual church? Are they putting pictures, like we talked about earlier, that don't reflect your actual church? And are they hesitant to actually get real pictures? Are they not editing the pictures correctly? Okay? Are they not editing the sermons correctly? Are they going off of those I feel, I felt things and making decisions that aren't actually reflective of the reality of the church as it is? There may be people involved that you're like, I know this works in the past, but maybe the variable that didn't work in 2022 or the last year is the person that was doing it. We know websites work. We know Facebook ads work. We know Google Grant works. We know branding and intentionality works. We know copywriting works. So maybe the person that's doing it for you, the volunteer, the part-timer, or the youth pastor that shouldn't be doing this, that is doing it. Oh, look at that. My camera just turned on. So I must have a loose cable somewhere. Maybe the person that's doing it is not the person that should be doing it. And this is where we come in. Okay. So the quality of questions determines quality of outcomes. You've got to ask yourself, okay, what didn't work this year? Is it because the method doesn't work? The execution didn't work because we didn't do it right? Or maybe the person we have overseeing it doesn't work. Okay. And we do this at my own church. Okay. I don't do the Facebook posts anymore because I was just stretched for time being so part-time with my own church. We got an executive pastor. He's taking it over. He's doing way more posts than I ever did. I'm jealous. I'm kind of upset about it a little bit, but you know what? It's better because we're getting more content out there for our church, right? That was looking at Facebook does work, but Justin is too stretched for time to get it done well while he's also managing the ads, the YouTube, the email, the education platform, whatever else I'm doing, the app. So you know what? For the organic Facebook page, let's hand it off to Joseph. Great. Perfect. Awesome. I'm not bitter about it. I should celebrate it, and I will. So, maybe it's the person that isn't the right fit for that one job. Okay. So what a great pitch, right? Saying that I'm already stretched for time to work for my own church. Now I'm going to ask to work for your church, but I am going to ask to work for your church because you need someone in your corner. You need the right person with the right plan, with the right strategy to help execute it in the right way. And that's what we do for you. That's why I had to build a team to do it because I was already stretched for time. Go to 360.navachurchmarketing.com. There's a link down below, or you can just get the checklist that will there's a checklist link down below, kind of give you everything that you need to all the different avenues that you can promote your church. But if you download that checklist, you get an offer for a free church marketing consult. That's where we come in to look at what you've done. We look at your branding, your messaging, your website, your content strategy. How does it align with your mission and what you want to see happen in your church? We look at your SEO, your reviews, your reputation online, your advertising, your Google Grant status. How are people talking about your church online? We look at all of that and everything you've tried and take what you've done, run it through our filters of professional and expertise team, whatever, and look at this is what's missing. This is the gap that's missing. This is the lowest hanging fruit for you, Pastor. This is the roadmap you need to take for 2023. We don't just yell at you what you need. We look at what you've done and modify what will help you in the exact order that you need to take it so you're not trying to run before you put your shoes on. That's what we need to do, and that's what you need, is to go to 360.novachurchmarketing.com or click the link down below, and you will get that offer. This is free for churches. If you are a business, we will do it for you, but we will charge you $500, or on January 1st, it will go up to $1,000, because this is something that many, many churches need done, so we're going to do it for free. Look, churches die because they compromise their mission over time slowly with a good heart, with good intentions. This is why churches die. God, if you firmly believe that God is calling churches to plant, why is he letting them die? Because they're slowly moving away from their original mission, from their original plan, from their original methodology. By adding on unnecessary ministries, by listening to people who shouldn't be in roles to be listened to. Okay? And so if you feel like things have gotten away from you, because when you planted your church, if you're an older church, people knew about you at one point. Okay, the driveways were empty and they were at your church. Many churches that I talked to that are over 40 years old used to have congregations of 700, 800, 1,000 plus, and now they have congregations of a couple hundred at best. Okay, there's a reason for that. And so what you need to do is look at what happened the last year, maybe even go further beyond if you're kind of in a revitalizing stage. What worked? What didn't work? How can we double down on what worked? How can we fix what didn't work or nix it? And then are there people in positions that don't need to be in those positions? And it hurts to be honest about it. But if you're going to start looking at 2023, which will probably be our next show, the roadmap for 2023 to get out of obscurity and stop being the best kept secret, you need to look at what you did before, because you can't just keep adding on car parts to your broken down car. Okay? It's not going to work. You need to say what exactly is not working. And then let's fix it. And if you have a perfectly working catalytic converter, you don't need to spend time and energy replacing it. Okay? It's working. Just keep it clean and don't let it get stolen. There's a lot of people out there that are going to listen to this and it's going to go over their head and say, yeah, I know it doesn't work. Everything doesn't work. Just, I need a new website. Okay? It's much deeper than that. All right? It's like the people that say, you know what? I'm not the problem. The church is the problem. I just need a new church. Wherever you go, there you are. So whatever you've tried before, if you tried it under your own thumb, it's time to take your thumb off. Let someone else say, hey, this is what to put your thumb on. Whether it's you, another leader in the church, us, another agency, I don't care. I want to see 1 million churches become the cornerstone of their community. There's over 1 million churches in the world. You haven't heard of them because they're not the cornerstone. It's time to get out there and be better known. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. If you're listening to this, there will not be a show next week. I will be out of town enjoying my family. I will, of course, be serving clients during that time, but we will not do a show. I won't even have all my computer stuff. Not that my computer camera stuff is working today. But if you like this, leave a review wherever you're listening. That means the world to me. Like it, subscribe it. Find me online. All my social links are down below so we can make you better known and become the cornerstone of your community again. God bless you guys. Have a great New Year. I will see you all in 2023.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.